Hey guys, today we're going to talk about some complex patterns of inheritance. So, we're going to look at some new rules about genetics, and these rules are not rules that Mendel developed, so they're called non Mendelian genetics. And so, we're going to look at how some different things can occur. So the first thing we're going to look at is incomplete dominance. So this is where neither allele is dominant. So they're a heterozygote. It's a blend of phenotypes. So if you have like a red flower and a white flower that you combine, then you get a pink flower for that F1 generation. When you do the F2 generation, you're normally going to get a 1 to 2 to 1 ratio. So 1 red to 2 pink to 1 white would be what you would probably be inheriting at that point. So the genotypes and phenotypes can be different. You can see both of these horses have a little bit different coloring within them. They've sort of blended. And then we have the genotype white. So the first genotype, if we back up, is considered chestnut. And then we're going to do our white, and we're going to combine those two. So when we combine those two, we get what we call a palomino. So what we've done is we've crossed two parents that were different colors. So if we print it through the white and we do the red, and we put them across, one across the top, which is big R is red, and one down the side, which is the big W. And then when we basically have these, we don't have any lowercase letters. We have both of them are going to be capitalized letters. And that means that they're 100%, in this case, RW, which would be pink, and that would be your F1 generation. Then if you took two pink and you basically combine them, which is combining two of your F1 generation, you're going to get 1 red to 2 pink to 1 white. So it's a 1 to 2 to 1 ratio. You can also have something called codominance. And codominance is when both alleles are dominant, so they're expressed separately. So you don't have a blending of color like the red and the white blending to make pink. You have both of these characteristics basically showing. So this would be an example of codominance. You have your white and your red basically appearing in this flower at the same time. So here you have your red cow. Here you have your white cow, and here you have a codominant cow, which is called a roan cow, and you have both colorations that basically appeared. So if you take two roan cows, which means they have both of the traits that you're looking for, you can cross them, and what you're going to end up with is a 1 to 2 to 1 ratio again. So probability that two roan cows will have at least one roan offspring is 50%. And the probability that two roan cows will have a white offspring is 25%. And the probability that two roan cows will have a red offspring is 25%. And that gives you your 100%. You can also have something called multiple alleles. And multiple alleles is when you have to have two different genes that make up that particular trait. Example would be like our blood type. We have three possible alleles that can combine in our blood type in order to give us the type of blood that we have. We have an A, a B, and an O. So 4 phenotypes can be possible from those 3 letters. So you can have an A blood type, a B blood type, an AB blood type, and an O type. So A and B are codominant, so O is recessive, and the alleles are noted with a big I, and then attached would be an A, a B, or a little I, which is an O representation. So here are your types of blood that you can have. If you have blood type A, then you have an anti-B antibody, and you have an antigen A. And that would be what would be attached to your red blood cells. So in this case, it looks like little half circles. And then type B, it looks like little triangles, and you will have anti-A antibodies, and you would have antigen B. If you have baby blood, you have both of these characteristics, the little half circles and the little triangles. And here you have an antigen A and an antigen B, but you have no antibodies. And if you have blood type O, you have no antigens. You have an anti-B antibody and an anti-A antibody. but you don't have any little shapes attached to your red blood cell. So the next type of trait that you can have is called a polygenic trait. And this is where it takes several traits in order for you to have that gene be expressed. So things like your hair color, your skin color, your eye color, your height are all polygenic traits. They all result from expression of lots of different alleles joining together. There are some lethal recessive alleles that you can have. They have the mutated copies of essential genes. So these would be things like cystic fibrosis, sickle cell anemia, Tay Sachs disease would all be examples of lethal recessive genes. So the heterozygous survive because it is one non-mutated form of the gene. Heterozygote is carrier for the disorder, and the heterozygote condition is sometimes linked with beneficial traits like the sickle cell carrier and malaria resistance. So you can have like a person who has the trait, but it's not expressed because it's expressed as a lowercase, it's recessive. So they may have the dominant trait and be heterozygous, just means like we were using a big T, little t in the other video. And so that little t could be lethal if you had two little t's. But if you only have one, you could be a carrier. And in the example of the sickle cell, it's when you are a carrier, you also are resistant to malaria. So, other complex inherited patterns still to come is sex linked traits and more about blood, and then environmental effects and chromosomal disorders. We're going to talk about the chromosomal disorders and the sex linked traits next week. Okay, hope you guys have a great day. Continue finishing up your lesson.